I'm Aspen, and in this video I share with you ways that I know how to move energy through and let go of stuff the moment that it comes in so that you can be more open and available for life so that you don't miss out on life. So if you haven't seen my grounded, centering, come back home video, check that out because that's kind of the foundation for this and for everything. It's super important for us to be able to have a tangible thing that we can do with our bodies and our breath to like come back home and center ourselves when we get off balance so that we can connect and respond to life rather than react. So check that out if you haven't. And then in this video, I'm exploring more of what to do throughout the day to maintain your equilibrium, to stay open and at peace and available to everything. So first I want to say, everything is energy, right? We know that on a science level, you get down to the thingies and it's just all energy, right? So we're inundated with a lot of energy all day, and it should move right through us. We have the ability, and that's what it's supposed to do. But we all know that's not really what happens, right? We latch onto it, or we resist it, we don't want to feel it, or we stuff it down, or we dissolve into it, right? And it's just like, boom, and we're stuck there. So we want to strengthen our ability to just move through energy, let it pass through us, let it metabolize, right? Just like get going and get back to good, right? So there are two ways that I'm going to talk about to do that. First is to have a strong foundation, like literally an exercise practice that strengthens your ability to move energy through, to metabolize it. So we'll talk about that. The second is to cultivate awareness so that you can notice when you get triggered, when something happens, when all of a sudden you're afraid, when life, hits you, because it's in that moment, that is the golden moment. That is the easiest time for you to feel it and release it. If that doesn't happen in that moment, what we do is we latch onto it, we resist it so it sticks in there, or we dissolve into it, but basically we take it and it just goes dunk, and it creates a blockage. Now remember, energy's coming in, right? And so now it has to go around this blockage, this stuck thing inside of you. And that doesn't feel good, right? We get that turmoil, that snowball, that overwhelm, that anxiety, that just like this day sucks kind of thing, right? Because energy has to move. So this blockage, it still has to move, but it's pretty stuck in there. And so it's just turning and spiraling and circling and festering and manifesting and just like growing, right? We've all felt this not great feeling before. So what we want to do is strengthen our ability in that moment to meet it, feel it, and release it. Okay, so that's what we're unpacking today. So like I said, it begins with having a strong foundation in your ability to do this. So what I mean by that is it's like going to the gym, but instead you're exercising a different type of muscle. You're exercising your ability to move energy through, to empty out, to metabolize, and to feel. The best way I know how to do this is to have a morning practice based on emptying out. So what I mean by that is emptying out looks different and feels different for everybody. So I'm just going to give a ton of examples that I know work for me and other people, and you can find it organically on your own. So emptying out is letting go of anything that's there. So for me, that looks like moving and breathing, because when you're moving and breathing, you are literally moving energy through. So sometimes it'll just like push that thing out, even if you're not consciously doing it. Ideally though, you're moving consciously with your breath, whether it's dancing, whether it's yoga, like moving, walking, running, whatever that looks like to you, but with that like flushing out, emptying out intention behind it. It looks like hand on your heart, feeling whatever's there, connecting to anything that might be stuck. And trust me, this is like gold. This is so powerful. And at first, you might not be connected, right? There might be some cobwebs that like need to be dusted off, and that's okay. But trust me, if you do this type of practice consistently and you build this muscle and this ability to let things flow, everything becomes available to you. You have so much more time, so much more energy. You're literally brighter, you glow, you're connected, you see the great things that come. You're there for the opportunity. You're there for like the love of your life. Like all that stuff like starts to happen when you're not stuck and constipated emotionally and just like crippled inside of you, right? So having that foundation, okay? So moving your breath with your body, hand on the heart, feeling whatever needs to feel there, right? We have this very strong muscle, the heart, that has the ability to metabolize energy and metabolize feelings like no other. It is there's intelligence, and this is like science, and it's not woo-woo, like there's so much stuff in the heart. So tapping into that's another way to empty out. Emptying out can look like meditation, and that can look like a lot of different things for people, right? But emptying out in that way, letting the sand settle. Emptying out through your brain, through journaling, through brain dumping, right? There's lots of ways to empty out. But by beginning your day that way, you are like starting that muscle. You're starting the car. You're creating that pathway. Like, this is what we're doing. This is what we do. Energy comes in and it comes out, right? So there's always stuff to metabolize and empty out. I don't think you're ever like empty. I mean, maybe like, Zen on the mountain, but I definitely am never like empty. But that's why that's a practice of emptying out, releasing what needs to be released. Because like I said, there's always something, like there's stuff blocked in us that is like 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, like, it's got calcified, it's like growing other things. So practicing every morning emptying out so that you're building that muscle, you're building that strength, you're turning those things on so that they're available to you when it counts. So moving on to when it counts, right? In life, when it happens and stuff in front of you, right? Very technical terms that I use. So this is where first you have to be aware and notice. Because we've all had those days where at the end of the day, we realized that like we were holding and carrying and one thing led to another, and then it was like the needle on the haystack and then just like, rah, right? So we want to be aware throughout the day so we can notice the moment that it happens, because that's our golden opportunity, right? Okay, so we're going through a day and something happens. We get triggered, we feel fear, we get hurt, we get anxious, someone cuts us off in traffic, like something happens, right? And then in that moment, this is your chance. So here, the tendency, right, is to constrict, to contract, to hold, to latch, to protect. So you want to do the opposite, okay? You want to open, you want to breathe, you want to feel, you want to meet yourself there. Don't resist and don't dissolve. That means you have so much more available to you. Those are the only things that we're trying to not do, right? Is to resist or dissolve into it and latch and hold and constrict, right? So in there's so much you can do. You can feel, you can breathe, you can witness, you can take a look at it, you can question it, you can have compassion for yourself, you can accept it, you can voice it, right? There's like so much to do in that moment. You could do an emptying out right there where you like go for a run or you yell out, or like, right? It's better to release and let go than to keep and to hold. So that's where you get to do it, is in real life, in real time. And trust me, the more that you do this, the more that you practice it, it'll start to become innate, right? Like just as if you were going to the gym or building strength in any other way, it gets easier. Before you weren't able to do a pull-up, and now you can do like 20. So know that this is a practice, this is a muscle, this is a strength, but it is an ability that you do have. And by tapping into this and strengthening this and having this available to you, I mean, you can imagine how much better life would be just with this thing in your back pocket, right? So, yeah, I think that is everything that I can offer. Quickly to review, having a strong foundation of a practice that helps exercise this muscle and gets you into that rhythm, gets you into that metabolizing muscle. Okay, and then 2 is to have awareness throughout the day. This is a great thing with the awareness thing that I offer, is that you check in. So by checking in throughout the day, even if you may have missed that golden moment when it first happened, it's still pretty fresh. So if you check in throughout the day, you can all of a sudden, like, hand on your heart, take a breath, and you're like, oh crap, I'm not okay. And then there's your chance to empty out, to metabolize, to burn through, to reground and center and let go. As opposed to holding on, keeping it, having it build, and then at the end of the day, you melting down, breaking down, or blowing up on someone, and then that being your indicator that you were not okay, right? So checking in throughout the day, having the awareness, like I said, the grounding, centering video really helps with the awareness, so that when it happens, because it does, right? Life is in session. You're never going to not get hurt. You're never going to not feel fear or be angry or be triggered. That's just, this is not it, right? That's not life. So then when you're walking and something happens and it hits you and you go into fight, flight, or freeze, you have that moment and that strength and that ability to come back, to breathe, to open, to feel, to meet, to greet, and to release. And I think of this as a cycle. So sometimes I have to do like 5 cycles. So for me, it's like hand on the heart, and I'm breathing, and I'm feeling, and I'm letting go. Oh, yep, still something there. So then I do it again. I feel, and I breathe, and I let go. Yeah, about 50% less. Okay, so breathe, feel, like, know that it's not just like, oh, I wasn't able to let that go, so I guess that's just like gonna stick with me for the rest of the day, and it sucks. No. Like, know that like any exercise, any muscle, like, it takes reps, right? So sometimes, depending on what hurts us, like, we all have parts that are softer than other parts, and that's different for everybody. Something that's a big shame trigger for me, you might be like, what? And vice versa. So if something really hits you in your gooey parts, like, it might take a lot more to process it and to let it go, but trust that the more that you practice that and the more that you do that, the more that that'll be available to you, and you, like, life will just feel better, right? So yeah, feel into it as much as you need to, and be careful to not, you're walking that edge between dissolving into it and absorbing it, as opposed to feeling it, honoring that feeling, like, I'm afraid. That's what and then, like, letting yourself feel afraid, letting yourself feel whatever it is, and then letting it go, right? It's different than just dissolving into it and it overpowering you, and then you absorbing it, and then it goes from something happened that made you sad to you are sad. So, know that that's, like, the line that you're towing there. And yeah, like, be curious about it in that moment, because curiosity can oftentimes be like your best friend. It immediately makes more possibilities available to you. So be curious in that moment, and yeah, just really honor yourself and know that you have so much strength and ability to do this, like an innate strength and ability to do this. So strengthen that and let me know how it goes. And I'm Aspen, and you got this. Like, you're an energy mover. I can feel it. So go out there, let that energy move through you, and see what becomes available to you when you do.